Hello, welcome back to Tiny Artist TV and yet another color palette challenge video. For today's video, we're going to be practicing dynamic poses, which honestly is a little bit of a weakness of mine, so it will be some good practice for me as well. But in this, I'll be trying to show you guys how to really push and pull poses to really get those like eye-catching character movement compositions with what is essentially a static 2D drawing. So let's go ahead and see what today's color palette inspirations are and find some good dynamic poses to reference, and I'll show you guys how to break those down. I did have a video in my Consider the Basics series where I show you how to break down poses in general, but this is going to be a concentration in dynamic poses. And once again, we have our lovely wall of colors here, and so everything in green is something that we've already done. Again, if you haven't watched any of these videos yet, go back and watch them, but enough about that. Let's see what today's colors are. So we're going to the random number generator. We're going to change this to 115 and number 39, cozy sweater, and I'm going to mark this in red for dynamism. Last time I did yellow for lighting, so we'll do red just to make it stand out. Number 55, strawberry milk. This might end up being another magical girl. I thought I had escaped. And our last one for today is 31, Lily Morning. So we have two pastel characters. I can see this one being an alien type character though. So a dynamic alien type character, potentially. Probably another magical girl. And then this color palette here, I remember using this for one of my Orktober Halloween videos. Will this end up being another monster? We'll see. Let's go ahead and get started. I've sort of unintentionally done these in 3 progressive phases. So the first phase is trying out a dynamic pose with my understanding of how to break down dynamic poses, but without references. And the next phase being breaking down a dynamic pose with references and then using those references to create my own pose. And then the third phase is after 2 rounds of warm-up and sketches and studying references, still having the references there, but then creating my own pose. So the difference between the first one and the third one being the first one had no references and the third one having 2 rounds of sketching and reference study and still having references, but using everything I have to create my own pose. So with the first one here, it does still end up being just a little less dynamic than the last 2, simply because I'm not using any particular references. I'm just using my knowledge that the best way to create a dynamic pose is with triangles. Either you're using 3-point perspective or 4-point perspective to create triangles within the body's movement, or you're just simply putting a triangle down on canvas or intentionally creating triangular shapes within the body structure that you're sketching out. So here you can very clearly see the triangle between her 2 top arms and the bottom of her foot, creating that movement. And then of course the line going up from the bottom of her foot up to her eyes. I'm drawing it here. So there's where my 2 most dynamic triangles are between the foot and the eye line, and then again between the front foot and the eye line. So just creating this point of movement versus a static pose, which is typically going to be composed of rectangular structures or rectangular types of movement, more stiff. And then if you're going for something in between, you're most likely going to end up using some sort of circular motion. So for dynamic poses, triangles are going to be your go-to. For my next pose, like you may see in some of my other videos, my little blurb of references that I keep in a corner if I'm like just really needing some inspiration or a little extra help. I have my little blurb of references down here in the corner, and you can see that I'm going for a ninja swordsman type pose. My initial thought was to really push the foreshortening to show you guys how to do that, and so like I keep the sketch in. This isn't the final sketch that I go with because I feel like it kind of looks more goofy than what I'm going for, but I do kind of want to keep this in to again show you guys how to foreshorten things within the body. So with a pose this scrunched, you really want to keep in mind the forms of the body, the way the torso is going to move. So the only thing you're going to see is the upper back and shoulders here, and then any of the limbs that are being pushed forward or being extended, like the foot here. But because the foot is also extended, you're only seeing the bottom of the foot, and then of course you've got the arms, which are all akimbo, so of course you're going to see those in full extension, but most of the body is hidden because of how extreme this particular pose has been pushed. This next pose is also something of a throwaway, but you will see here, this is kind of the middle ground where I'm keeping ideas from the first sketch, throwing away some ideas, trying new ideas, and then bringing those ideas to the final sketch. And you can also see the thing I mentioned about ovals, where it's creating movement, but it's still static. The body is still very rectangular, not as dynamic as this final pose here, where I am emphasizing triangles throughout the entire process to keep the pose dynamic. So we keep the foreshortening with the forearm, so you only see the back of the knuckles with this, but you see the entirety of the hand. You don't really see the back foot too much because of the way the front leg is extended, but here you can see where I've sketched out creating a triangle between the bottom of the foot and where the hand is on the hilt of the sword and then the tip of the sword, just really keeping everything nice and pointed to make this character more like giving that feeling like he could just come and lunge out of the screen at you. Which, granted, yes, this pose probably could have been pushed a little bit more, but with the references I had and with my goal for this character, I'm actually really pleased with the way it turned out. I do keep part of the idea of the outfit from the second sketch to give this character more movement, because on his own, he is very dynamic with just him leaning in with the sword and the foot forward, but I wanted to give more balance to this composition. Since I'm working horizontally instead of vertically, I had a little more room to play, so I give him this big billowing outfit to keep the movement of the visual illusion of the movement of like where the sword would go flowing with the accessories. For the final pose, I start out by blocking out my references and seeing where the movement, where the triangles are falling. So let's say I wanted to recreate these poses or something similar. I have my triangle of focus to kind of draw from. So I do a couple of pass-throughs to really get a sketch that I like. With this sketch, I'm using both triangles and the 3-point perspective that I had mentioned earlier. It's kind of sloppy, but you can see here that I'm really pushing that back hand way back into the horizon, and then I'm bringing the hand that's in front way in front of us to also play with the proportion of things when something is being pushed and pulled closer or further away from you, and the same with the feet. So the foot is going way back there and is probably, I'm really being dramatic with the way that I am minimizing and maximizing things just to really give that this character is in motion. He's in the middle of this big leap, and so I wanted to really make the things in the front really big and the things in the back really small, all using this triangle of focus between the foot and the hands, and then this kind of swinging swoop between the hands, the back of the shoulders, and the arm, or the hand that's going towards the back. Now, unfortunately, once I line this pose, I end up not liking the way it looks. I don't keep it, and I do a completely different pose and a completely different character. But overall, I think this was still a really good day for practicing dynamic poses. I hope I was able to explain breaking down poses enough to where people who are watching these videos who stick with static poses would be more comfortable trying some more dynamic poses. Again, references are always going to be your friend. Just build up that mental library, and whenever you're practicing, just make sure you're breaking down those basic shapes so you get an understanding of how the body moves and how to push and pull the body. So that is it for today's video though. Before I go, I do want to make one announcement as far as scheduling and posting goes. Some of you may notice I didn't post a video last week, whereas in the past few weeks I've been posting at least one, sometimes two videos. It's probably going to go back down to one video a week because next week I'm going to begin working on Black Pearl again, and so that's why there was a delay with this video. So if you're not aware, Black Pearl is my webcomic, so if you would like to go see what I'm doing when I'm not on YouTube, you can go over to Webtoons and read the Black Pearl saga, and I will be updating that twice a month. So yeah, this is actually it for today's video, so I'll see you guys in the next one. Until then, have a weird day.